This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margot, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
We're happy to say that Veridesk is a proud sponsor of the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast and our go-to choice for an active workspace. Veridesk quickly and easily transforms your desk into a standing desk, and you can try it all risk-free for 30 days with free shipping both ways. Find out more at veridesk.com. That's VARI desk.com.
Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have Jen.
Hello.
And we have Kristen.
Hey.
So, Kristen, you weren't there. Jen and I spoke to Dr. Josh Axe recently, and he is our guest today. He gave a fantastic interview, and Josh is all about functional medicine. That's his real practice. And so, Jen, do you want to give everybody kind of the 411 on what is functional medicine?
Yeah, so I think he does a really great job of talking about it in the beginning of the interview, and then he kind of like interweaves different things as he goes on, and you can really get a feel for kind of his expertise in the interview, I thought. But so, like most times we go see a doctor, and that's like considered, traditional medicine. Like they're gonna like look in your ears and your mouth and be like, what are your symptoms? And then most likely, prescribe you, a medicine or give you something to do. And he does something that's called functional medicine or integrative medicine, which kind of looks at, in my mind, it's way more holistic, and it's also kind of preventative in some ways. So instead of it being like, okay, you have this problem, let's fix it, it's like, okay, you have this problem, now let's find the root of it. Why is that happening? And a lot of times it's not a simple process, because it's like, okay, well, the reason you have, if you've ever had an exercise injury, this makes so much sense. It's like, why does your hip hurt? And it's like, well, it turns out it's not like actually your hip that's the problem. Your hip is now hurting. That's become the problem. But that happened because you had like a muscular imbalance somewhere else in your body,
right,
or weakness somewhere else, or that sort of thing. And so you have to go back and like course correct everything, but you have to get to the root of the problem. And that's a lot of what he does. But I was really struck by how much just knowledge he had about everything. I feel like I could have continued talking to him for forever, and he would have just had like so many different things to say. He has a lot of they're not fully soapboxes, I don't think, but just, there's so much knowledge in that brain. I also kind of want to know if it's like, I wanted to ask, is Dr. Axe, is that really his last name?
We didn't ask that question. How did we not do that? I know, Josh Axe. That's a name?
Yeah, I'm like, he is just like axing down like misinformation, like, rah, yeah, I don't know.
And he's super handsome. He was on video at first too. I was like, oh wow, he's good looking. Like, yeah, he's almost like a soap opera character, Dr. Josh Axe.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because I think if you are someone that is maybe trying to change the medicine field a little bit, I think you really have to walk the walk in order, just to talk the talk, I guess. And when we did see him in video, like he was like kind of glowing. Like sits up straight, looks strong, put together, like totally mentally focused and engaged. And I think he talks about like his he has like a certain step so many minutes in the morning, that's like his ritual.
Yeah, he has a triathlon. It's a mental triathlon, a spiritual triathlon. So he prays, then he meditates, and then he kind of plans his day. And
I kind of want to be Dr. Josh Axe.
Yeah. And his wife, I'm now following her on Instagram, and we mentioned it in the show. Yeah, me too. I know she follows us, by the way. She's a big Thick Bottom Girls fan. But yeah, they live a great lifestyle. They live it. They eat healthy. They are just lovely people. They live in Nashville. I want to be these people. Can they adopt me?
I know, right? I know. I want to vacation at their house.
There we go. So he's a big proponent, of essential oils, and I know you two are both big fans of it. So can you talk a little bit about that? How about you, Kristen?
Yeah, so I really pretty much just use it for like in my diffuser, and just have it like making my house smell nice. Although I do also use a little bit of it a lot of times before I do yoga. I'll rub a couple drops into my hands and onto the tops of my feet. And then like as I'm going through a flow, I will kind of get these little whiffs of usually I'll do something like lavender or something, sort of calming and relaxing and stuff. And that just feels like really nice and adds a little something extra to my practice, I think.
Ooh, I'm gonna try that with on the tops of my feet.
I know.
Yeah, and I know that there are some that like, and I don't know a whole bunch about this. Maybe we should ask Dr. Axe. But I know that there are some that like can irritating to your skin, I think, if you put it directly on. So, as I'm saying this, like guys use common sense. Like if you touch it and it hurts, like don't do that.
Yeah. That's a thing in life, by the way.
I recommend like a carrier oil or something, like so that you kind of mix it in with that, and then it's more.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that I don't personally do this, but I take full advantage is at the yoga studio I go to at the end of class during Shavasana. She brings around a cool, damp cloth with lavender. And it's amazing. Like that is, sometimes I stick it out just for that,
That's such a treat. I want to say I've had that at Yoga 6, which is like a franchise. I've had that, and it's just it's so lovely. It's like a little spa experience in your yoga class.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I have a diffuser, and in this interview, Dr. Axe recommends, we asked him, like, what are your favorite essential oils? And one of his favorites was frankincense.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Oh, you just got that the other day.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I had never had it. I've never done it. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. That seems, because he was like, when in doubt, just do that. Just use that one. I'm like, okay.
Just straight up on its own?
Yeah, or like diffuse it.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. Yeah.
Because I mix it with a couple other scents for like a Christmassy thing that I really like. But yeah, I don't think I've ever done it just by itself.
What do you mix with for Christmas?
I think I have a piney one that it goes in with, and then I think myrrh.
That is very Christmassy.
It's super Christmassy. It smells wonderful. The pine is like, I don't know what the proportions are, but like I do like considerably more pine than the others. But I also like, do you guys ever use the the Fraser fir candles that are like $35 for a very small little candle?
I've seen them.
It's the best scent in the history of the world.
Yes.
Like I will burn those like, or use a diffuser for those like all year long. I just love it.
No, I mean, but you should just try the frankincense on its own. It's really lovely. It's just really lovely. And the other one I really like that I think he mentions, but I've stumbled upon it before, cedarwood. Whenever, because I will tend to diffuse. I have a diffuser in my office. And so I almost set it up like every morning, and I'm just kind of like, what sounds good? And sometimes I want something a little, perkier or peppier, so I'll do more of like a lemon or like a grapefruit or something. But then sometimes like I do kind of want more of a, I don't know, like a comfy or homey or kind of like grounded feeling. And I find that for me, the cedar wood, I imagine, I don't have pine, but I imagine pine's kind of similar. Is it just, it makes you feel like you're like out in the forest.
Yeah.
Which just is like
awesome.
Glorious. Like who doesn't want to just like breathe in the forest? So it just puts me in a good mood.
Where do you guys get your essential oils?
Oh man. Where do you get yours, Kristen? I was like, Amazon?
Yeah. I think all of the ones that I have are ones that I have been sent to review, which
nice.
So I'm not giving you a great answer, but it's because I've gotten them from like several different merchants, and I've liked all of them. Like I have yet to get a kind that I'm like, ugh, no, this doesn't work for me. So I'll look back on some of the ones that we've reviewed, and maybe we can share that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Because I've really liked a lot of them. And I know that people have really specific ideas and really strong preferences for different brands, and I'm sure that some are purer than others, and I just don't know enough about it to feel all that strongly.
And I think that maybe Dr. Axe has his own line.
He wrote a book about it for sure.
Yeah, I think he does. I think that's on his website.
I bet they're great.
There are so many different brands out there, and I've reviewed some too, so we can include that link as well. I think it's Nanda. Yeah, Nanda. Yeah.
We'll find it out, and I'll definitely be sure to put it into the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but I'm a total newbie, so we don't really know what we're talking about when it comes to essential oils.
Just go to Fit
playing
Bottom
around
Zen, type
with
in the
it.
words. We definitely knew about it when we wrote about it. So definitely look those up, but I'll make sure to put those into the show notes as well. And then he also talked about collagen and bone broth. And obviously, Kristen, that's not your bag because you're a vegetarian. But so Jennifer, you just made your first batch of bone broth. So I've been making mine with my fabulous Instant Pot, which I've been talking about since last Christmas that I got for last year. But tell me your experience with bone broth.
Well, now I totally need to get an Instant Pot.
Yes, you do.
I did mine for 8 hours, and I know I should do it longer, so next time I'm going to do it longer. But what's been awesome is, okay, so if you buy bone-in chicken, it's really affordable. Like, it's really cheap compared to, without. So we have been doing, my husband and I have been making, like, sheet pan dinners with bone-in chicken. And then, so we eat all of it, well, except for the bones. And we just put the bones aside. And then literally I just listened to Dr. Axe said, put them in a pan, like with some water, bones in there, put some apple cider vinegar so that you're pulling out the collagen, you're kind of breaking things down, cook it over like super low for a long time and then have it, use it in recipes, use it in soup, or just drink it. And I was kind of skeptical because I was like, well, it was only there for 8 hours. And let's be honest, like I didn't measure any sort of amount of water and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like chasing around a toddler or whatever. So I go ahead and my husband's also extremely skeptical. He's like, Jen, did you even put carrots or anything here? I'm like, no, I didn't do anything.
Oh, you did nothing.
It's literally just bones.
Wow. Okay.
I know. And so, which I'm sure it is more delicious if you put all those things in it. That will be my next phase. But yeah, I just put it in like a cup and then we had it warm and added like the smallest amount of sea salt and a little bit of garlic powder. And it was delicious. Like literally that evening, we were like so dorky. It was like, what are you going to do tonight? We're like, we're going to watch Stranger Things and drink bone broth. And we did. And it was awesome. It was like snuggling and warm, and it was great. So I think we're like converts, and now I'm gonna have to make more. And I want to add turmeric, and I want to do some other things.
Yeah, there's a great recipe I reviewed for Fit Bottom Eats, the Cave Girl Cuisine book, which is with the Instant Pot, because I love my Instant Pot. And she has a couple of great bone broth recipes there. It's actually pretty simple. It's just, and it's, I don't know, I live in New York. I feel like everything's, you can just get it at the store. I mean, well, it's New York. You can get anything here. But if there's a butcher where you are, in any meat section, they should nowadays have a section for bones, and you can get them. And I love it. It's just like my new favorite thing too. Now that it's getting cold, I'm totally into it. Because over the summer, of course, I'm not going to drink it as much. But
do you get like? Because he recommends like chicken feet, because I think he's trying to get like the most collagen out. Do you?
I haven't done chicken feet yet, but I've done pork. And I the knuckles and Kristen, are you going to be freaking out
right now?
Yeah,
Kristen's tuned out. She's emotionally checked away from us for a second.
Yeah, I just pulled up Facebook and I'm like, I'm out, guys.
Weird meat eaters. But anyway, so why don't we just go right into our episode today with Dr. Axe? He's a fantastic guest.
Did you know that being more active at work, like standing more and sitting less, can help improve your health, reduce back pain, boost energy, and increase both your metabolism and your productivity? True story. And our favorite way to get those benefits is with Veridesk. See for yourself at veridesk.com. That's VARI desk.com.
Dr. Josh Axe is a doctor of natural medicine, a clinical nutritionist, a chiropractic physician, and best-selling author with a passion to help people get well using food as medicine. He operates one of the world's largest natural health websites, draxe.com, a site visited by more than 14 million people every month looking for healthy recipes, herbal remedies, nutrition, and fitness advice. He is an expert in functional medicine, digestive health, and herbal remedies. Dr. Axe founded one of the largest functional medicine clinics in the world in Nashville, Tennessee, and served as a physician for many professional athletes. Welcome to the show, Dr. Axe.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show today. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today we have FBG Jen.
What up?
What up? So I'm going to ask you the first question, Dr. Axe. Can you please give us a little background talking about what functional medicine is versus traditional medicine, please?
Yeah, so when you look at traditional medicine today versus functional medicine or even integrative medicine to a degree, conventional medicine today really focuses on treating a symptom and relieving a symptom, and they'll use a lot of pharmaceuticals, medications, which actually kind of surprising. A lot of these pharmaceutical medications were derived, or they came up with the idea from plants or essential oils or herbs or things like that. But when you look at a doctor of functional medicine, rather than treating the symptom, let's say high blood pressure, for instance, patient comes with high blood pressure to a conventional medical doctor, they will prescribe a blood pressure lowering medication to just bring it down. But it's forcing the body to do actually something it doesn't want to do. And the same thing happens in conventional medicine. Someone has high cholesterol, they'll give a medication to try and drive it down. Somebody has too much estrogen, they'll try and drive it down. So what medications do is they force your body to do something. What actually supplements and herbal extracts do in most cases is they support your body in healing itself and doing what it was designed to do. So most doctors of functional medicine, they're more holistic in nature. They'll say the first question they ask is, what is the root cause of this problem? So with high blood pressure, it's not caused by a lack of lisinopril or some sort of medication in your bloodstream. High blood pressure could be caused by emotional stress. So maybe they put somebody on a program to reduce stress. It could be caused by nutritional deficiencies. Low magnesium levels can cause high blood pressure. Maybe it's a diet problem. Maybe they don't have enough omega-3 fats in their diet. So there's chronic inflammation building up in their bloodstream and in their gut. So, that's a root cause of the problem. And so what they'll really do is they'll look at, okay, what is the root cause of disease, and then recommend lifestyle changes, dietary changes, and vitamins and supplements to actually treat the root cause of disease. And that's why today, when you look at what functional medicine and integrative medicine, the reference to those 15 years ago, almost nobody knew what they were. But today, so many people are sick and tired of just taking drugs with all the serious side effects, and people are looking for natural solutions. So, functional medicine today is really, it's growing very, very quickly.
Well, it's so cool because you don't want to, take a drug that then has side effects in addition, and then you're like treating side effects, and it kind of becomes like this almost like domino effect. So in your opinion, with all of that in mind, what does quote unquote healthy eating mean to you? And is it kind of the same for everyone, or is it, in your opinion, pretty individualized?
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer that question. I do want to kind of go off the prior question that just made me think of something. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize this too. These synthetic medications today, they leach nutrients from your body. In fact, there isn't a single medication or drug across the board, even things like birth control pills or antibiotics, these things, or aspirin, these NSAIDs and these what we think are minor painkillers. All of these medications leach nutrients from your body. In fact, if you look at something like, again, birth control today, it actually kills microbes in the gut, causes yeast overgrowth, which then causes major B vitamin deficiencies, lowering energy levels, can then affect the thyroid function. So these cascade of effects can happen by taking just even a single drug. So, the great thing is that, the body can heal with nutrients, with dietary changes, with more activity and fitness. All of these things can really support the body. In terms of the diet question, I'm a firm believer that there is not one diet for everybody. We were all uniquely created. I see these big debates online, like vegan versus paleo versus keto versus, and here is my opinion. Like I've spent a lot of years studying Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. And today, when you look at the amount of research we have over the past 100 years, we have about 100 years of research proving some of what we do in Western medicine. When you look at traditional Chinese medicine especially, there are millions and millions of individual case studies that have been done over the course of over 3,000 years. There is a lot more efficacy in terms of individual case studies when you're looking at these ancient medicine and ancient nutrition remedies versus what they have today. So if somebody goes into an Oriental medical doctor today who is really well trained, they have a patient come in, what they'll do is they'll actually look at their tongue and they'll feel their pulse, And they'll be able to tell what's going on in somebody's body based off of some of those signs. For instance, if they look at somebody's tongue and there's a white coating there. Now, most of us already know that's candida. There's yeast overgrowth, which in Chinese medicine, that's called dampness in the body. When somebody has dampness, they're going to have lack of nutrient absorption. They'll hold water. They can get bloating easy, digestive disturbance, those types of things. But other things, if there's creases on the side of the tongue, that's a liver issue. If there is just coating only in the back of the tongue, that's adrenal fatigue. All those types of things, they would look at the body and say, okay, there's this issue going on. And let's say if somebody had major liver and gallbladder issues, well, that type of person would actually do better on more of a vegetarian diet, very, very high in fruits and vegetables if they have gallbladder and liver issues, versus somebody that has hormone imbalance. They typically want to do more high fat and a little bit more protein, really supporting the body and especially supporting insulin levels. Same thing with diabetes. So ketogenic diet, something like that. Somebody with brain issues, epilepsy, just neurodegenerative illness, Alzheimer's, would do amazing on a ketogenic diet. And these are two very different diets, super high plant-based, higher in carbohydrates versus ketogenic, but it really depends upon the person. Here's the big thing I know, that there have been people that have been vegans that have lived to be over 100 years old. There's also been people that have lived off of whale blubber, Eskimos that live to be over 100 years old. The big thing is people need to eat real food, and I will say though, I typically, it is rare, and I'd say less than 1% of the time I have somebody do a vegan diet. And the reason being is it's really just not the healthiest diet for most people because it just leads to so many amino acid deficiencies and certain B vitamin deficiencies like B12, and there's some other nutrients there as well. So I tend to put people more on what I would call, like a traditional Chinese medicine diet, which is lots of soup. I'll give an example. Like I have people do a lot of bone broth, a lot of fruit, lots of vegetables, some wild-caught meat, some nuts and seeds, and some grains, but only nuts, seeds, and grains that have been sprouted and soaked and that are easier to digest. And so that's, in general, sort of the diet that I recommend for most people. So I know I kind of said a lot there, but yeah.
That was awesome. We like information.
We do like information. We're information geeks. So can you talk a bit about adrenal fatigue? What is it? What are the signs of it? And how can you help with it?
Yeah, so adrenal fatigue, and again, I'm going to talk about this in terms of Western medicine and Chinese medicine. In Western medicine, and these are closer related than some conditions between the two, but when you look at adrenal fatigue, in Western medicine, we tend to say, okay, well, we know cortisol levels are high. There's a high stress environment, and specifically your kidneys, these organs are responsible for producing certain hormones, especially things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, some of these different hormones. Your adrenals are responsible for that. We live in a society today that's a real fight or flight response, and most people have heard this explanation. So I'll keep it to a short 20 seconds here. Our ancestors, if there was a bear running after them or a lion, like they were flying and running away, or they were fighting. And your body knows this innately. So your body, when it's put under that type of stress, all of your energy goes from your insides. Imagine this, your gut, your GI, your liver, and it starts moving outside externally. It starts moving up to your brain and your limbs, okay, or certain areas of your brain. So your body can, fight or fly away. So and imagine this as being a spectrum. You have one end of a spectrum called your sympathetic nervous system that's far over on this left end. On the right end, you have what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. And where your sympathetic nervous system is your body's on high alert and it's on protective mode, parasympathetic is your body is in healing mode, regeneration, hormone secretion, digestive juices, saliva, all of those things happen with a parasympathetic response. Well, today, most of us live, traffic jams, you're like, that's a high sympathetic response. We're always on, we're working all day. We hardly take days off. Cell phones, and the blue light coming off, those keep us in a high sympathetic state. So, but here's the thing, and here's an example, as a lot of your followers are going to really, really, I think, connect with on this is that, when you're out in the middle of a high intensity interval training workout or even doing a 5K, you can't eat a cheeseburger, right? You can't do it. Like either you're going to have reflux or it's going in one end, out the other. Like that's what's going to happen, because when you are in that fitness, your body knows, oh, I need to start going into sympathetic mode. I'm flying right now. I'm moving fast. But your body can't do both at the same time. Your body can either live in that state or this other state. And so again, you can tell when you live in when you're in a sympathetic state, you can't digest. Certain hormones aren't secreted in the right amounts. So when you are, living in that state all the time, you're never completely digesting your foods. You're never completely absorbing and digesting. And your hormones, you're using too many of them, where you're literally sort of draining some of these organs like your adrenals. So again, that's sort of a little more of a complex answer. But adrenal fatigue is caused when those adrenalin and cortisol levels stay too high over time, and then your adrenals are finally like, I've had enough. I can't take anymore. And it's kind of like used all your juice. There's a word in Chinese medicine, it's called qi. It's spelled QI. And that really comes from your kidneys and adrenals. And that's known as sort of like, they'll use words like life force, that sort of thing. But imagine sort of like your energy is like a glass of water. And like, have you ever met anybody and like their like skin is glowing, their eyes are big and bright, man, they're just full of energy? Well, in Chinese medicine, you'd say, man, that person has, that person's got a lot of qi. But other people, and this naturally happens as we age too, when you see somebody with rounded shoulders, even low self-esteem, like you'd start to see, like, imagine that glass of water, like that water is barely in there. And that's qi, but also in Chinese medicine, they would say that person has adrenal fatigue. Their energy levels are so low. And again, what can cause adrenal fatigue, again, it's a lot of this fight or flight response. Foods, sugar is meant to be for a sympathetic, like you're out there running, we're eating sugar and all these refined carbs all day. That causes it as well. And then low self-esteem, actually. Poor self-esteem will also really contribute to adrenal fatigue. And actually the emotion of fear, I promise, I know I'm talking a lot here. Last thing I'll say, and we'll jump out of questions. But so like in Chinese medicine, they know certain emotions cause disease in certain organs. So the emotion of fear, well, think about this. If you have a child and they get really, really scared, they can actually wet themselves, okay, because they're losing control. It's causing dysfunction of their bladder and their kidneys, okay, and adrenals to a degree because of fear. If you have a person, let's say, you've got whether a young woman or man, and they have lived in fear for a big part of their life. Maybe they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of disappointing their parents. They're afraid of, disappointing a loved one or something like that. If somebody has that chronic fear over time, yeah, they may not wet themselves, but you know what? It's going to cause chronic dysfunction in their adrenals and kidneys and reproductive organs. In fact, I think this is a big root cause of infertility today. Different types of, ovarian and uterine cancer, adrenal issues is sort of this underlying fear that people have lived with a big part of their life.
So how common do you think adrenal fatigue at some level is for the majority of like the U.S. population?
I would say it's really, it's hard to say. I mean, I would say more than 50%, about 50% of people could have it, and it could honestly range anywhere from 20 to 80%. I mean, I would say most people have a low low degree of adrenal fatigue. Mm-hmm. And people can tell by this after you eat, or even just 30 minutes to an hour after, go and look at your tongue. If there's a white coating mostly on the back of your tongue, either if it's on the whole tongue or the back of your tongue, any type of white or any type of coating at all, that means you have adrenal fatigue. It's really that easy to know.
Huh. So what's something that someone could do, let me guess, like if they do have that, like they go look at their tongue and they're like, oh no, I've got the signs of this. What would you recommend, like a couple of things they could do that could possibly start to help?
Yeah, I mean, number one thing I would do is I try and address the emotional side. I would try and dig into what is the underlying emotion that is toxic to yourself. Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it anxiety? Is it stress? And then work on dealing with that. There's a lot of different ways. I know a lot of people have different religious beliefs, but for me, like when I've had, like my own mom actually struggled with major fear and anxiety. She was on antidepressant medications. And so, she's a Christian. She turned the Bible. And so she just actually printed out a list of verses and other meditations and started working on those. So that's one, really working on, I do something called a spiritual triathlon in the morning where I wake up first thing every morning and I just get grateful for 5 minutes. I just say everything I'm grateful for and spend some time in praise, and I spend 5 minutes reading like some sort of personal growth, something positive, and then I spend the next 5 minutes in prayer, meditation, visualization. And so that's something that people may consider doing as well. So that's number one. Number two, in Chinese medicine, when you look at what nourishes the adrenals and kidneys, they're really dark colored foods that are nutrient dense. And so things that are black and purple and really dark green. And so, I would recommend consuming lots of blueberries, lots of figs and pomegranate. On the vegetable end, lots of green leafy vegetables. Things like chicken liver actually are phenomenal because they're so high in B vitamins. Even if you take that in a capsule form, Carlson's has this great supplement called buffalo liver you can take in capsules. So anyways, I would do, some wild-caught meat, lots of berries, lots of things like seaweed, lots of green leafy vegetables, and then dark rices like black rice and quinoa are also very nourishing. A little bit of sea salt, adding those to the foods. But that's sort of an ideal diet. And then in addition to that, actually even things like bone broth and collagen would be great. And then in terms of supplements, there's a supplement called ashwagandha that is that's very, very effective both for thyroid and adrenal issues. So I think doing ashwagandha daily, there's other adaptogens that are beneficial, reishi mushroom, rhodiola rosea, tulsi, also known as holy basil, and then taking a B complex vitamin. So those are some of the things I would consider and look into from a diet and herbal supplementation standpoint.
Cool.
So talking about food, if we were to go to your home and look into your fridge and pantry, what would we most likely find there?
Yeah, so I was in there this morning. I had a bunch of blueberries and figs. So I love summer because it's fig season. So I eat like figs like every morning. But I have a bunch of figs and blueberries in there. I think we got some raspberries too. I got a lot of broccoli rabe in there. I don't know if you've had rapini. It's like a cross between broccoli and kale, but it's I really like bitter foods. And that's another thing. If somebody has candida, bitter foods are what dry up dampness and candida in the body. So just kind of a side note, but I do a lot of that, lots of hummus. So I got that in there. I got some almond milk in there right now. And then see what else do we have? Just some natural condiments. There's a brand I love. It's called Tessemae's. And they have honey mustard, natural barbecue sauce, natural ranch dressing. So that's great in there. What else do we have? Last night we got some grass-fed steak and artichokes from a local restaurant here. So you're going to find a lot of fruits, vegetables, meats. I think we got some cod liver oil in there actually. So that's some of what I got in there now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about. We do have a lot of listeners who are looking to kind of optimize themselves and their bodies, and would like to lose a few pounds. So I know you touched on it a little bit, but can you kind of maybe tell us a little bit more about weight loss and hormones and kind of that relationship and what some of your best advice is for weight loss? Yeah.
So I've worked with thousands of patients over the years, specifically with weight loss, and I've seen really great results real fast, but also helped people get to the point where they were seeing long-lasting weight loss. And my wife, actually, she's a doctor as well, Dr. Chelsea Ash. She's also a CSCS trainer and yoga instructor, and so she could actually probably speak to this just as well as I could. But she does something right now and she's done lots of diets over the years. She used to do some figure and fitness training and that type of thing, but she does what's called carb cycling, or even keto cycling to a degree. So what she did is she actually got on a ketogenic diet, just did it for 30 days. And then what she does is she does 2 days in a row of mostly fat and protein and very little to no carbs. And then on every third day, she does, quite a few carbs. So she does mostly carbs and protein on those days. So she does that for herself. I've had other patients do every other day. But one of the keys is balancing out insulin. Most people today get way too many carbohydrates. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. It's funny, we call it low carb today. Low carb is normal. Everyone else is living in high carb. Despite what most people think. And this is an issue oftentimes even more directed towards women than men, because on average, what I've seen in my clinic, men tend to gravitate a little bit more. They'll eat more meat, they'll eat more fat, but a lot of women do a lot of carbohydrates, especially, and I think it's a major cause of hormonal issues. So I would say to consider a couple diets. One, I recommend a ketogenic diet for some people, but for a short period of time. Nobody should live in keto and do that year round. Doing it for a short time to sort of reset their body, getting it ready to burn fat for energy. So that's one option, doing that. And then moving into something like keto or carb cycling for a period of time can be good. But for people that just want to just eat one way all the time, I recommend just general food groups. For the most part, make vegetables, 50% of your plate. After that, make, a sprouted whole grain or a fruit, maybe like a quarter of your plate, and then something like wild caught meat, like a quarter of the plate. So that's for me typically what I recommend. Or you could, again, throw healthy fat in there if you're not going to do carbs during the meal to sort of replace the, the grains and fruit would be an option. But in general, like for me, like a Chinese medicine diet, like I do tons of bone broth. I actually think it's the number one food people are deficient in today is broth. And the reason being is most of us get a lot of methionine-rich proteins, which methionine-rich proteins are found in, beef, chicken, fish, eggs, and then also grains, legumes and beans and nuts and seeds. And so those are methionine-rich proteins. Those are meant for muscle building. Collagen-rich proteins are only found in organ meat and broth, which is what our ancestors ate all the time. And that type of collagen-rich proteins support your gut lining. They support holding your organs up in your fascia. They support your, your joints, your entire immune system, and your skin, hair, and nails. And so over time, as we age, your body produces less collagen. And so, for your skin to be firmed and toned and without any sort of sagging, you need collagen. Same thing, like how many people as they age have joint issues compared to muscular issues, like a muscle pain versus joint pain? I mean, it's like 10 to 1, way more. Same thing with athletes. How many athletes today are tearing their ACL or the rotator cuff or a joint versus, or connective tissue versus a muscle? We have many more joint issues today, and that's because, again, we're not nourishing these areas of our body. And so, again, if somebody said, hey, I'm talking about diet right now, but the number one food people should be getting in their diet today, whether it be for weight loss, for insulin balance, for overall health, it really is collagen. 15 years ago, nobody knew what an omega-3 was, and I'm serious. I mean, literally almost nobody, less than 10% of people. Now everybody across the board knows, hey, you got to have a balance of omega-3 and omega-6. We're going to see the same thing, I guarantee you, in the next few years. Everybody will be talking about, hey, not only are your fats balanced, are your proteins, are your amino acids balanced in your body? Most of us are getting way too many methionine-rich proteins, not near enough of these collagen-rich proteins like proline, hydroxyproline, glycine. And so, again, perfect diet for me for someone losing weight. They might wake up for breakfast and do a bone broth smoothie, 1 scoop of a bone broth powder, maybe some coconut milk, some berries, a little bit of cinnamon, maybe even, you could throw a little bit of like flax or something in there too, green superfood powder, but like a superfood smoothie for breakfast. For lunch, maybe a big salad, olive oil, salmon, that type of thing on there, lots of veggies. And dinner, maybe like a warm broth of bone broth soup. You could do a little sprouted rice, but mostly veggies, herbs, ginger, chicken or beef, whatever in there, lots of broth. But, I think in general, that's the sort of diet that I know that I'm not very good at just, answering your one question. I tend to go off in my own direction and say 5 things. But anyway.
So do you make your own bone broth?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to get broth. So number one, you can make it yourself. If you make it yourself, you can go to your local farmer's market, grab some chicken feet, backs and necks, or beef bones, and you're going to submerge them in water in a crock pot or slow cooker or pressure cooker for about 24 hours. Cook it there. You're going to put in a few tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. That actually helps pull some of the nutrients out. And that's it. And that'll make broth. The other option is you can buy it frozen. Oftentimes have it shipped to your house online, or you can get it in a powder form like a bone broth protein, or like so you can take bone broth, dehydrate it, make it into a powder, and then actually have it like a smoothie. That's the other option. So those are kind of the 3 ways to get broth in your diet.
So tell us about some of your favorite workouts, not only to lose weight, because we do have people who follow us who do want to lose a few pounds, but also just for lifelong good health. What are your favorite workouts?
Sure. Yeah. For favorite workouts, Man, I got a lot. Like my wife and we just love to move for one. But I'll say we really like. I mean, we like interval training. I mean, we like doing some burst training. So we'll do Tabata. 40 seconds on, 20 off is typically what we'll do, and we'll do that with weights a lot of times too. We'll go in and do a set of curls, 40 seconds. Lighter weight until we're just like muscles are done. Take 20 seconds rest. So Tabata is absolutely one of our favorites. We like doing bar classes, my wife especially. I don't do it as often as her, but she'll do something called bar amped. A friend of ours, Suzanne Bowen, does, and really good for sort of getting toned up. And then we love traditional weight training. So I would say of all the type of workouts we do the most, I tend to do like 30 to 40 minutes of weights, maybe 40 minutes of weights followed by 20 minutes of burst, if you want to know what I do most often and regularly. And aside from that, we just love to move. Like we're big fans of paddleboarding. So we go down the panhandle of Florida all the time, an area called Seaside in between Destin area. And so we'll paddleboard, we like indoor climbing, all that type of stuff. So we do a lot of, a lot of interval stuff.
Gut health in general, like what's kind of like the big, because I know people have heard, like, oh, this is kind of important, gut health's important. What do people really need to know there?
Yeah, so when it comes to gut health, or specifically that condition, leaky gut, one of the ancient practitioners, Hippocrates, has said, all disease begins in the gut. And I really believe what he said is, for the most part, it's true to a degree. In this condition, leaky gut works like this. Now, somebody can have no symptoms and have leaky gut. Somebody can have major symptoms like inflammatory bowel disease. But I'd say one of the most common issues, especially if somebody has an autoimmune problem or thyroid, like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, they absolutely have leaky gut. Children with autism absolutely have leaky gut. And what leaky gut is, imagine your gut lining is like a fishing net, a net with really small holes in it, and it's the barrier between your bloodstream and your intestines. Okay, so there's a barrier there. What can happen over time if you have a lot of inflammation? Imagine a fire going along this net. Well, it starts burning holes into the net. So your gut lining has really small holes that should only allow very small particles through, like micronutrients, like vitamins and minerals and glucose for energy and those types of things. What happens over time is there's inflammation of the gut lining. You get these big holes in the net causing leaky gut. And so certain things that should never get in your bloodstream get in there. Undigested food particles like gluten, heavy metals and toxins, bad bacteria, parasites. These things actually get into the bloodstream, and then your body says, whoa, these shouldn't be in here. It causes inflammation in your bloodstream, and then that can cause inflammation throughout your entire body. Rheumatoid arthritis and joint pain over time can target your thyroid, causing thyroid issues, can target your whole body, causing autoimmune disease. And so really it's this sort of cascade of effects to where it starts with gut inflammation, then can cause food sensitivities to certain foods where people are getting reactions to foods like weight gain, gas and bloating, even skin, different skin issues, even minor acne or rashes, those types of things can pop up over time. And then that can lead to more autoimmune illness with people over time. So that's essentially what leaky gut is. And the majority of people, again, I'll go through a list of symptoms here. People with adrenal fatigue, any thyroid problem, depression, anxiety, autism, ADHD, chronic joint pain, or any type of autoimmune disease, everyone, or food sensitivities and food allergies, every one of those issues is connected to leaky gut syndrome. And so really, if somebody wants to, heal their body, they got to start with their gut lining. So you start by removing foods that cause gut inflammation. That's pretty much all sugar aside from a little bit of fruit and honey. That's going to be, so again, get sugar out of the diet. Get these hydrogenated oils like canola oil and vegetable oil out of the diet. You got to remove refined grains. Any grain that's not sprouted and gluten-free grain like a sprouted rice or sprouted oat or quinoa, all other grains you should get out of your diet. And then, of course, processed foods, aspartame, artificial sweeteners, sucralose, all of those people should remove from their diet. And then they should consume foods that really are easy on the body to allow it to heal itself and improve digestion. And that's going to be bone broth, cooked vegetables, wild organic meats, some fruit, pears are super easy to digest, that type of thing. And then certain herbal supplements are really good, and certain essential oils actually can be great too. Ginger is fantastic for gut health. Licorice root extract, peppermint oil. Those types of things can all benefit the gut.
So speaking of essential oils, you've written a whole book about it. So
yeah.
What are a few of your favorite ones, and do you like to diffuse them, or how do you like to use them?
Yeah, so I use them 3 ways, or actually I'll say 4 ways. I diffuse them, I use them topically, I use them in my personal care products, and some oils I'll use internally. Like the oils that are more herb-based, I'll use internally, or herbs or root. Typically the floral oils or an oil that comes from like a tree or something like that, I tend to not use those internally. But so anyways, just to give you an example, so the oils I'm using the most, holy basil oil is an oil I absolutely love. It's also known as Tolsai, but holy basil is an adaptogen, helps lower cortisol levels. So I'll diffuse holy basil essential oil sort of all day. I'll have that going, sometimes mixed with a lavender oil. Very, very calming. If I'm trying to focus on studying, peppermint oil, coffee essential oil, and even things like vetiver or cedarwood. Those oils are very good for improving focus. I make my own homemade deodorant. I use a little bit of I usually use sandalwood or cedarwood oil for myself. My wife Chelsea does it. She'll use a little ylang ylang or jasmine and that type of thing. And then just in general for other conditions, digestive issues, ginger oil with peppermint oil is an amazing blend for hormone conditions, for balancing out estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. Doing a blend of clary sage and holy basil is probably my favorite blend. For naturally thickening your hair, rosemary oil is the best. 10 drops of rosemary oil. Clary sage is the second best for that too. But rosemary oil, massage it in your scalp with a little olive oil, and maybe wash your hair a couple hours later. But those are, some of the oils. And then I have a saying, when in doubt, frankincense. So I use frankincense all the time. I use it, it's kind of what I just, if I travel and go into even a public restroom, I don't use their antibacterial soap. I use my frankincense oil or lavender oil because they're antimicrobial in nature. I'll diffuse that when I'm meditating and praying in the morning. So just in general, probably the oil I personally use the most for me is actually frankincense.
Interesting. Okay, so I think I'll have Margot ask the last question, which is something we ask all of our guests. It was a super fun question.
All right.
Before that, I wanted to just know if people want to reach out to you, get more information about all this kind of stuff, where can they go?
Sure. Well, they can visit my website. It's draxe.com. That's draxe.com. And I got a lot of resources on there. Got a lot of free recipes, a lot of articles on things like fixing your adrenals and your thyroid. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. You can just search Dr. Josh Axe on Facebook. And I'd also encourage everybody check out my wife's Instagram page. She is she does her natural beauty skincare routine. She just did one on the essential oils she uses, like geranium and some of the others for her sort of anti-aging skincare. And she's big into fitness. And her name, I think her handle's Dr. Chelsea Axe. So Dr. Chelsea, actually, you can find her on Instagram there as well.
Cool.
Well, be sure to follow her.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
So I
one of our kind of people.
She actually follows you guys too, just so you know. So she was
cool.
saying, I told her I was going to be talking with you guys today. She was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And
because
so
I was she sounds like one of us.
She definitely is. Yeah, she fit right in. In fact, she's going out next month, and I know you guys are probably colleagues with people like Natalie Jill. She's going out in November. They're doing a big fitness thing together out, I think San Diego. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I get to ask you the last question, Dr. Axe. What was the last song you listened to before you did this podcast interview?
Oh, my gosh. What was the last song I listened to? Let's see. I was just working out, and it was, man, you know what I think was on my playlist? And I don't know if I should be embarrassed or not.
Go for it.
I think I might be. I think it was actually Despacito by Justin Bieber, if you can believe that.
Oh, hey, we get a lot of Bieber.
We do.
Man,
we
all
really
right.
do.
Well, hey, that was what was playing, my last song of my workout. So
it was the song of the summer, of course.
You know what, man? It's a good vibe. It's a good song. It was fun. So it was. It helped me finish my HIIT workout strong. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
It just makes me want to bust out on Zumba moves. Every single time. I'm just here's my Zumba class moves. That's all I got.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're a great guest.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me. I love what you guys do. There are, you guys make fitness fun, which is great, and And I know you guys have a lot of great content on the podcast. So again, I want to say, hey, thanks for having me.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.